Okay, so you're ready to open up your first investment account or brokerage account. Now, if you are under 18, in this particular instance, you're going to have to get a parent or a guardian to open up what's known as a custodial account, where they're going to basically manage the account on your behalf. Now, you can take it over when you turn 18. Now, just to know that there's also, for instance, a youth account that Fidelity offers for 13 to 17-year-olds. So if you're between 13 and 17, you might want to consider the Fidelity youth account for savings and for investing. Now, if you're an adult or a parent or a guardian watching this, then you can think about the 529 savings plan, or you could even, if you're a child watching this, you can ask your guardian or your parent about this. So the 529 savings plan is typically opened by adults for their children who are named as beneficiaries, tax advantaged. So again, this could be you, that if you're looking at your first account, but for most of us, okay, looking at if you're an adult, the first account that you could think about opening, and you should think about opening, is a Roth IRA. You don't need a job. You don't need to be self-employed. So the Roth IRA, again, no job needed. This is the beginning one to start with. So the Roth IRA is where you have post-tax money that goes in. So maybe you've been working, mowing lawns, doing various jobs, and you of course announcing this to the IRS and paying taxes, etc. But this is after-tax money, okay? Not money that if you're working as an employee, it's not the money that goes into other advantaged accounts like 401k, which we'll get into, 403b. This is one that basically we're looking at that's post-tax in, but no tax out. So you pay nothing when it grows, hopefully over the decades, and it grows with interest or profits or dividends, things like that. You don't pay any tax on withdrawing the actual money. Now, of course, you have no tax if you withdraw the principal. So if you put money into it and you just take the money that you put in out, no tax on that. But if you do that, you can't put the money back in. So if you, let's say you put in 5,000, you pulled it out at some point, you cannot put that 5,000 back in. There is a certain, essentially, penalties that you pay if you're withdrawing on the earnings, etc., below a certain age. So if you're over 59 and a half, then you don't have any of these penalties on withdrawing the earnings. There's also no tax, again, it's because it's a Roth IRA, on withdrawing the earnings. So you need to be 59 and a half. That's the whole point of the Roth IRA, right? It was to encourage Americans to save for their retirement. Now, it also must be open at least 5 years. So that's another requirement. So if you open this and you're 58 and you want to retire at 60, well, you're going to pay penalties and potentially tax. So you have to have it there for 5 years before you start withdrawing from it. Now, again, that's one rule, the 5-year withdrawal route, but there's also, again, you can withdraw from the principal before you're 59 and a half, just the principal, not from the interest. If you do with the interest, you do pay tax and you do pay penalties. But there's another limit, which is the amount you can contribute. So that is the 7,000 this year. Now that goes up over the time. So, it wasn't long ago that it was only 5,500. Usually every 2 years it goes up. Sometimes every year. It was like 6,000, then like 6,500. So now it's 7,000 that you can contribute to this account in a given year. Now, if you're 50 plus years old, there's a catch-up because they know that you're getting closer to traditionally to when you might retire. So there's an extra 1,000 you can contribute. So instead of just putting up to 7,000 max, they now allow you to put up to $8,000 max. Now again, check it because it'll change over time. Every year or two it'll increase, typically speaking. But one other thing to notice is that, that's fine if you're single, that's what you can put in. Now, if you're filing jointly or you're a surviving spouse, it's a little different. It's like you can put this amount per spouse, right? So there's 2 of you there. That would be 14,000 if you were both under 50. But if you're both 50 plus, you could put 16,000 combined. That's 2 individual, right? So 7 and 7 or 8 and 8 if you're 50 plus. But also note that if you're a baller and you're earning too much, this is going to be a limit. So for instance, the MAGI, or the Modified Adjusted Gross Income. So you're thinking about all the stuff that you earn, the gross income. And again, we won't get into too much detail here, but the differences, but all the money you earn, you add a few little things to the modified part. So if you're earning money that's abroad, right, that's typically excluded, right? If it's foreign earned things, other things as well, certain non-taxable social security benefits. And again, you can get these numbers if you plug them into a good tax app when it comes to tax season. But the other adjustments they make to your income is they reduce your income, your gross income, so everything you're earning. They reduce this by not your itemized reductions, but other deductions. Things like contributions towards a health savings account, certain military moving allowances, other contributions that you're making, etc. They get reduced from, like, let's say, an educator expense. As a teacher, I think it's about $300 at the moment where I can claim a year that in educator expenses. It could be for, for pens or for paper, etc., stationery, whatever that is. So they'll reduce your income by a certain amount, but it's typically pretty close to your overall gross income. So the MAGI must be less than 150,000 for you to contribute these amounts to the Roth IRA. The 7,000, that's the max you can contribute. 8,000 if you're 50 years plus. And again, per spouse, so that's a bit more. It's 14 or 16 total, and as a family, if you've got a spouse or you're filing jointly. Now, as your income goes between 150,000, that's your MAGI goes between 150,000 a year and 165,000 a year, they gradually take you off the Roth IRA, so you can't contribute the full amount. And once you're really a baller and you're making more than 165,000 MAGI, then you can't contribute anything to the Roth IRA. They take that option off the card. Now, again, for those that are filing jointly or your surviving spouse, the numbers are 236,000. You can contribute the full to the IRA. But after 246,000, that extra 10K jump from 236 to 246, after 246,000, that's it. You can't contribute to the Roth IRA. Or can you? So there is a trick for both single and those that are filing jointly. There's what's known as a backdoor, or rich person's Roth. So this is known as, typically you can do things like a Roth conversion, but I would suggest at this point to ask your brokerage account, ask your investment account, make them work for their money. So it could be if you opened up with Charles Schwab, or you've opened up your account with, say, Fidelity. Again, it could be Robinhood or an app like that, or Webull, but I'm not going to go into those apps necessarily. But you could ask people that are like the customer service. You could ask the brokerage account. Now, you could also ask a team. So again, if you're Merrill Lynch, but you could ask a team if you have a tax advisor, if you have a CPA, an accountant. So again, when you're starting off, we'll have this in another video, you're probably using apps like TurboTax when you've got very simple, like one source of income. Maybe as you start to sell bonds and stocks and get more complicated, you might go to Credit Karma. Personally, I don't like the apps as much. I went to Humans, so I went to H&R Block. They're very helpful when you're starting off. But then eventually having a CPA, that really does pay for it. Usually a good CPA will pay for themselves in terms of finding deductions. So you want to talk to them or your accountant, or at least just talk to your brokerage team. And what this typically means in terms of the backdoor Roth. Again, if you're making this kind of money, you're probably able to afford this. Is usually only about $100 or $200 around the tax season time. Could be a little more depending on the CPA. But you want to essentially think about funding what's known as a traditional IRA. So you open up a traditional IRA with your investment account. You fund it up to the yearly limit. Let's say it's $7,000. That's you if you're individual. And you then roll over that traditional IRA into a Roth IRA. Now, the 5-year rule still applies. So if you're doing this and you're 58 and you want to retire at 60, look, you have to wait 5 years until you can take it out tax-free, penalty-free. But the backdoor Roth is great when you cross over, and this should be your goal, right? You want to eventually get to the higher levels of income, if that's what you want to do. Then just know that there is a way for you to still be able to access the advantage of the Roth IRA. Now, one final thing, again, remember just to keep in mind as well that the Roth IRA, you can grow stuff tax-free. So if you're really good at investing, you're not paying any tax and penalties if you do things right on the actual withdrawals. If you wait until you're 59 and a half, you're not paying any tax or penalties on the withdrawals. And you have, of course, the account open for at least 5 years. This is why I say it's the first account you should really be thinking about opening. You don't even need a job. But one of the best advantages is that you don't have what's known as RMDs, or required minimum disbursements or distributions. So you don't have to, you're not forced to take out the money by selling or liquidating your portfolio when you get over a certain age, which unfortunately is the case for what's traditionally called a 401k or a 403b, which we're going to get into in another video next.